Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching or listening to this, and welcome to this week's episode of the Non-Identity Podcast. Now, this week, we're joined by someone who battled depression, but has managed to turn it into a career that she loves. It's Jodie. Hi, Jodie. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Before we get into your career journey and stuff, can you just let everyone know who you are and where you grew up and stuff?
Yeah, so my name is Jyoti Dhoanota, and I go by Geet as well. I'm born and raised in California, and I've been here my entire life.
Brilliant. How was childhood growing up for you?
So we grew up kind of lower middle class, so it wasn't like the best, but I also can't complain because my parents never really let us lack anything. We had shelter, food, and water, clothes, and that's what we needed the most. So.
As we said in the intro, you went through a very tough time of depression. Can you explain what led you into that and how you was aware
Yeah.
that you had depression?
So I had it in 2021, and that was so my uncle, who's my mom's youngest brother, had come from India to live with us. And they stayed here for 6 months. So maybe like no, it wasn't it not a maybe, but it was definitely May, towards the end of May when that depression hit because I started realizing that they're freeloading, they're not gonna leave, clash of cultures. There's just a lot of stuff happening to the point where I was working 3 jobs. I was doing my thesis, I was doing my master's program, basically. And I was also like working 40 hours a week or in 3 jobs at that time, but then I was also doing everything like that. And then instead of working like retail and stuff, I just took a teaching position. I just worked those 40 hours, and simply because I did not want to be home in my own house.
On a side note, how did you find the teaching? Because that's what I do as a day job. I'm a teacher.
I actually applied to be a special education research specialist, but when I went in for the interview, they said that like, we need a teacher like for English. It was a middle school, so they needed an English teacher. And so let me tell you, I have no credential. I have no background in teaching. I have no background in English. And I'm like, okay, throw me in. I'm like, it's better than being home, right? Throw me in.
How did you find that in the classroom? Because it can be a very stressful
Oh,
environment as well.
it was horrible because it was like school was barely opening back up 2021, like so the kids were just like misbehaving, and I quit. I quit in January, and I was just like, I can't do this. I was like, I can't do this anymore.
You said obviously you felt like you didn't want to be at home and stuff, but what signs was you having that you'd fallen into depression?
So I was without a doubt like I was alone. I would not want to be around anybody. I shut people out. I was losing weight like crazy, you know, and it was a lot to kind of take in. So even when I look at pictures in like 2021 and I'm like this little like stick thin person and everybody's like, what happened, and just to kind of like save face, I couldn't like really say, oh, depression, but like now I do because I'm like, who cares? Like people need to know, my story. Like I went through something, and I'm lucky enough, I guess, if that's the right word to use. I've got an attitude of gratitude. I guess you could just put it that way, So yeah.
And at points during that stage, did you feel like you didn't want to be here no more? Did you get that low to the point where you just didn't want to live anymore, or was you managing to function through it?
I was never suicidal. I did seek therapy though, and learn to establish boundaries and stuff like that.
And what's the best bit of advice that a therapist gave you?
The best piece of advice that she gave me, well, I've had to bounce through therapists because I've had to change insurances, which is health is a lot. Like I don't know how it is over like where you are, but in here it's healthcare is not the best thing. Yeah. So,
Yeah, no, we have free healthcare, but the waits are so long because every service is oversubscribed. So you could be falling into your doubt of depression or mental health, and it could be 6 to 8 months before someone speaks to you. So you're
wow.
going through that on your own while you're waiting.
Wow.
So it's not great.
The best piece I don't even know because the best thing kind of was just to like establish boundaries more than anything, which growing up in a South Asian family is very hard to do, you know. Your boundaries are not really respected kind of by everybody. So it was hard because I never really got advice. More I just got kind of like what to do. Like nothing that like really stuck with me.
And as we said in the intro as well, you've managed to develop it into a career that you love. What do you do, and how did you get to that point?
So I actually started writing in 2022. And I just fell in love with it. So the reason I started writing was this whole situation that had happened. And, I wanted characters that would be relatable to everyone. So my debut novel, The Chaos Within Us, Niti is the main character, and everything that she kind of goes through with her uncle is my story, like other than that, I write fiction, I write like romance and whatnot, but that aspect of things. And, after I started writing, I was still like in therapy, and I told her, like, this is helping because in that way of putting Niti into that position and like having her be successful and having her have like it's a romance novel, so just kind of having her have that partner with her gives me hope for the future that, one day I will be like overcoming everything and I'm gonna have someone on my side that cares for me and isn't afraid to stand up to things.
Exactly. And when you're getting your ideas to write your novels and stuff, do you jot them down in a notebook, or do you lock yourself away for a couple of days and write? How do you go through the process of writing?
I actually write it on my phone, so I don't write like beginning, middle, and like that's what we're always taught to do. But I think books are like so different than writing anything else. If you have a thought of something, put it down like right away. I think that's one of the hardest thing about being a writer is if it's not written, you're gonna forget it. So my phone, I'll write the entire story, like not chapter by chapter, but whatever pops up, whatever idea, and then I will send it to like my email, like the on the notes app, share to email, and then I'll put a doc together. And then after that, I'll have like my editor check it, get back to, and then it comes back to me and goes back to the editor, comes back to me, and then I have other people read it first, just to kind of see if there's like anything else to add. So they're called ARC readers, advanced reader copy, and then it goes out.
How did you like getting there doing stuff? How do you go through the process of writing? If you think, I want to be a writer, what's the next step? How do you get to the point of
I
publish?
I never wanted to be a author. It just kind of happened, you know? That's what's crazy about everything is that it just happened because I was reading this series called Avatar series, and my sister told me to read it. I never read fantasy. I was like always reading I was always kind of reading like romance, and then there was like a time period where I just didn't even really care for reading. Um, and then after I read Silver Flames, like other than that, I was like, it's a mid series. I don't like it, whatever. And then I read Silver Flames, which is like the latest kind of book that's out. And Nesta is just like her depression was me, like the way she shut people out. Like drinking and stuff, I don't do half the shit that she did in there. I don't do minus the part and that was like one thing too is shutting people out, and that kind of just stuck with me. And I was like, if I have a book like if I read a book which I could relate to, I could write a book that other people could relate to. The goal was never to write 11 books. I was supposed to be done after 4 of them.
How do you connect with an audience? Because like on a one-to-one basis, we can sort of direct the conversation to how we want it to go. But you've got so many people reading your story or reading a page. How, when you are actually writing, do you feel like you're able to connect with everyone?
A lot of it comes from something that I've like been through kind of in a sense, or something that someone else has been through. Whenever I'm in my therapy sessions, I have a notebook and I will note down especially this year, I'm like last 2023 was just one of the worst years of my life. I had a lot of bad things being experienced with my brother, my mom, and my grandma going to the ER at different times of the year, getting really sick. Seasonal depression was at an all-time worst, not having a job. It was bad. So I started writing down things from therapy. And that's one thing that I put into those books because it's like I've gone through it. Somebody else has probably gone like Beautiful Consequence and Beautiful Mistake. They cover endometriosis and fibroids, which a lot of people don't even know what that possibly could be, right? And and I didn't know this until someone that I knew had a cyst that like ruptured. I didn't even know what a cyst was because women's health is not something that like is talked about anywhere. And so I try to make, and it's not the entire book. Like I cover topics considered taboo in South Asian communities, but it's not the entire book. It'll be like a chapter of the book or like a paragraph of the book or something like that. But just that part, somebody learned something new, you know.
And have you found the community being supportive, or are they pushing you away more because you are writing?
So I do have like people that are supportive of my writing. Here's the thing. Here's the thing though. They're not like people I know real life. They are strangers on the internet, which is crazy because you grow up with like friends and family and you think you're going to have that support when you start something like a business almost. And strangers support you more than anybody. And that's because, in my opinion, a lot of your friends and family don't want to see you do better than them. And that's crazy because like I'm saying, I'm into K-pop, so the girl who does a lot of my book covers, Lily, she's done so many book covers, so I just shout out to her. Um, and she does like I never even thought like one time I just asked and she's like, if you ever need them, like just keep going. And um, Temporary Ties, one of my other friends, also K-pop Twitter, we met. She did the cover for Temporary Ties, and then Lily did all the covers for like Finding Home.
And out of the 11 books, what's been your favourite one to write?
I think Contracted Together because it was kind of more of a personal book. Because, like I said, after fourth book, Beautiful Mistake, I was supposed to be done. And Contracted Together, I wrote because so my sister Shashi, like for me, I don't like right now. I'm still facing that depression and not work. Like I don't because I don't have a job and I don't have anything. And I don't know if you believe in God or if you believe in the universe kind of situation, but I am like a little bit of both. But ever since I've started believing in like the universe, I've seen like better kind of things happen. So I'm just saying, like, even in yesterday's meditation class, I was like, I got another job rejection, but I know the universe has my back, you know? So, and that's important to know because I'm not working right now. And so, Contracted Together, my sister, she got into a car accident in October of 2022. And she survived. Nothing like really happened, just the trauma aspect of it, but like nothing happened, thankfully. Um, and she had a lot of money saved up because obviously she's the one working and I've been like struggling, pandemic graduated, just trying to get life together. And she told me so now I was the one taking her around everywhere because she's just scared to drive again. So I took her to the bank to get the money that she needed to get a new car that she had saved up. And she came back with like that check and she's like, look, how does it and she told me she's like, how does it feel to be the unsuccessful big sister? Which just triggered Contracted Together. And when I wrote Contracted Together, it did the best. Like people wanted it, they wanted to read the story. The sales just blew off on that one. And that's like the first time I got $100 in royalties. So that book was very personal. It was like my revenge kind of book, and that's exactly what it did.
Are you in the process of writing another book at the moment?
So here's the thing. I actually had like some like an attack kind of. It felt like a panic anxiety attack. So I kind of just stopped writing. Um, but that's something I've been working on with my therapist. And she said we're gonna take it one step at a time. We're gonna do our acknowledgments, like pretend that it's already written and just write your acknowledgments. And then pretend that what's it called? That you wrote the dedication like to start your book. So one step at a time. And she's like, if you get to writing a chapter, you get to writing a chapter, maybe that'll spark writing the next book. Or maybe it'll be like, you know what, I'm done. Like 11 is that number and I'm done. And that's how we're going to find out. Because if you don't do it, how are you going to know?
What else would you hope for the future?
Honestly, I am going to, because I self publish. So the biggest goal right now is just to see if there's any publishing house that's willing to take it because so I give all my books, my copies to people that are not to people, to the library for the high school that I graduated from. And I ran into the teacher who used to teach me economics and government. And she's like, "Oh, so are you like, or have you reached out to a publisher?" I was like, "No, because what if they reject me? What if they say like?" And she's like, "Well, if you never ask, the answer is always no."
Agree with that. It was the same when I set up this podcast. It took me 6 months to record my first episode because I had the idea and I was worried, what if no one listens or watches? What if no one wants to come on and be a guest or anything like that? So I kept talking myself out of it. But like you said, until you try, you don't know.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with that. You've just got to go out and ask. And all you're going to hear, all you might hear is no. And if it's a no, so what?
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world. You just move on to the next one.
I mean, I don't know if like, so one thing I learned also from my therapist is this thing called worry time, where you just sit for 5 minutes and you just worry. And when that timer goes off, no more worries until the next day. Like that's it. You can worry about it tomorrow now. And then when I started meditation, he kind of like, I had my third class yesterday, and he kind of brought up this similar thing, like, you can have 24 hours to throw yourself a pity party, but the next day you got to brush your teeth and you got to go because the world's going to move on with or without you. So.
No, exactly. And when I went through my therapy sessions, the best bit of advice he gave to me was, at first he was saying live in the moment, and I kept saying to him, but the moment's rubbish because my wife was ill, things just felt like everything was going on. And he goes, no, what I mean by that, you don't get back yesterday and you don't know what's coming tomorrow. So just get yourself through that day. And that really worked for me. So 10:30 usually every night is my time I go to bed. Mm-hmm. And good or bad day, that's that day finished. When I wake up the next day, even if it was the best day I've ever had, or if it's the worst day I ever had, that next day's the new day.
Yeah.
And that just seems to help, because then I used to worry a lot when my wife got sick. Yeah. I used to wish for the time before she was sick. Yeah. And then I was always worried about what if this goes wrong, what if that goes wrong in the future. Mm-hmm. So then I weren't living, and that living in the present sort of saying, it took me a little while to get my head around that and be open to it, but it actually does really help. And that's how I've been going the last couple of years. Have you ever thought about hosting podcasts along with your writing?
I thought about it, but I just don't have the equipment, or like wouldn't know where to start or anything like that. But maybe someday in the future,
Honestly, you don't need. I'm literally on a phone and with a £3 microphone, and I edit on my phone.
Nice.
So you don't really need much to get going nowadays. And I've been going like this for a year and a half because I haven't really got the money to invest in all the fancy stuff.
Yeah.
But you just need something that can record, something that you can edit, and just hit the go button, I think.
Right.
So hopefully, in a year or so, we'll be seeing you out in the podcast world as a host.
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, I'm literally just going with the flow. Like my therapist even asked, like, what are your New Year's resolutions? And I was like, girl, I didn't write anything down this year. I don't know. Whatever happens, happens. I wrote no goals down this year.
That's the best way to be, because I think if you plan stuff ahead and set goals and you don't quite reach them, you feel a bit disappointed. So it can be worse then. So I think that's the best way, just to go with the flow.
I mean, I definitely agree. Like, last year I was jobless like the entire year in 2023, and the goal was to get a job. And then 2024 hit, and I was like, oh, and then, so we do this like tradition, like, because my family all gets together. And I have a box set of cards every year, whether it's Christmas or blank cards or just cards, right? And the goal is to write a letter to yourself to open the next year. And so this year I was like, fuck that, I'm not doing it. You guys want a card? It's there, get it. I'm not writing anything this year. Whatever happens is because the universe has my best interest at heart. It has my back. And, that attitude of gratitude is just, I'm thankful for everything that's happening, because it's just one step closer to the right, to the right job, to the right person, to the right whatever.
Even though, as you've said, like last year went a great year for you, do you still feel like you're in a better place as each day or week goes by?
Yes and no, because health wise, like I have severe health anxiety. If anything happens, I have to Google it right away. I have to oh my God, I need a doctor, like this and that. So health anxiety wise, I'm still kind of like in that loop, which is one thing that I'm going to start talking to my therapist about and break that cycle. And then like emotional, spiritual wise, I do feel like I'm growing with like meditation, manifestation, just like law of attachment, law of detachment. I've been listening to podcasts about that. I've been learning so much. So, you know, whatever happens, it's always for the better, is kind of what I'm thinking now.
Are any of your books available online if our viewers want to get hold of a copy, or are they all in the library at the moment?
Oh no, I donate those copies, but they are available on Amazon. You just type my name in, and you could type in Contracted Together, you could type in Finding Home. The titles are just easier to look up if you wanted to than my name. As you can see, my name is a bit complicated.
Yeah.
So yeah, Finding Home, Beautiful Consequence, Beautiful Mistake, The Chance We Took, Whisked Away, whatever.
If you send if you send all the links over, we'll make sure we put them in the description so people can get to them quicker.
And if anybody's listening, it's just, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at GEET is booked.
Okay, brilliant. And we'll put all that in the description below. Well, it's been really nice catching up with you. But before we go, I've got one last question, and this is a question I ask everyone. If you could be remembered for one word and one word only, what would it be and why?
If I could be remembered for one word?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question. I think I would say strong, because I've had to overcome a lot, like since childhood, elementary school. I grew up like a loner because we were poor, so like nobody wanted to be friends. So I got through that, and now I have a best friend that I met in college. And then like separation anxiety, I had to get over. Health anxiety, I'm trying to break that cycle. Just any and everything. It's just like repetitive, like how strong can you be? How strong can you be? How strong can you be? And one thing that I definitely would say is you are not the victim of your life. Like, you're the creator of it, not the victim of it. So.
No, brilliant. And I definitely agree with that. With the short time that we've spoken, you're definitely a strong person. So well done. And thank you so much for your time.
Yes, thank you.